Hi everyone, I'm Bakht and I talk about books. Books, all kinds of books. Okay, so the last time I did this video, my mic got really messed up, but anyway, I'm going to be careful. So I talk about books, fiction, non-fiction, movies based on books, you name it, albeit with a bit of sarcasm. So if that sounds like your thing, consider subscribing by clicking on the big red button below. So if you've seen my, a few videos ago, if you've seen my vlog of readings in Lahore, the readings bookstore in Lahore, I bought a lot of books, quite a few books, and I've now managed to read more than half of them. But today I wanted to discuss two in particular. One which I believe won the 1999 Booker Prize. Honestly, I've read so many bad Booker Prize winning books that I don't think that it should even be considered a selling point anymore. But then again, maybe that's just my opinion. But yeah, this book was pretty atrocious. So yeah, Booker Prize winning, Nobel Prize winning. We got some pretty unlikable fiction here. So stay tuned to hear more about that. So let's start with Serotonin by Michelle Houellebecq. This is a story of a man who has hit an existential dead end. He's nearing 40, he's depressed. He is some sort of agricultural scientist, which prior to this book I did not know that that was a thing. So pardon my ignorance. So anyway, he's some sort of agricultural scientist. He has to go back and forth from the countryside, kind of, I think, sampling cheese or something, cheese or wine or something like that. And one of the themes in this book is that the traditional ways of farming are kind of being overtaken by mechanization and globalization. And the farmers, they can't really keep to their traditional methods for fear of going bankrupt, obviously, and they can't compete in kind of the global market or even the European market for their products. And so it's kind of like a golden era of agricultural production is coming to a close, and this person is there to witness all of it, which also sort of aligns closely with his own life, because he feels that his golden era is coming to an end, because he used to be this, in his mind, he used to be this really attractive, appealing man, appealing to a lot of women, but he's not really that anymore, because he's kind of aging and, you know, he's got a hanging gut, he doesn't look as good as he used to, and yeah, he feels he has to settle for life, settle for a lot in life. So he goes to see a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist puts him on a medicine, an antidepressant called Captorix, I believe. Yes, Captorix, which kind of numbs him down. You know, he loses interest in just about anything. So he kind of puts the brakes on his life a little bit. He has a mini psychotic break. He kind of, you know, ends the lease on his apartment. He leaves his deranged, cheating Japanese girlfriend. He kind of goes out on like a memory lane trip to visit or to find out what happened to all the women that he was involved with, or the women that he was in love with, you know, his sort of serious relationships. So he kind of goes on a loop like that, trying to recapture almost his lost youth. So what's the problem with this book? Firstly, it's nonsensical. The way that it's written is pretty nonsensical. I mean, it's like he's a child in a grown man's body. You know, also the writing is really problematic. You know, there's a ton of racial profiling in there, Japanese, Spanish, Mexican. The author seems to hate them all for some reason. I mean, and he makes these really disturbing, sweeping generalizations about different cultures. Like he says one sentence to kind of generalize what he thinks about a certain culture or a country, which of course is not helpful. I don't think that it's helpful in the literary context either. Also, there's a lot of intolerance, a lot of misogyny, kind of derogatory views of women. You know, he thinks that women are secondary. Their job is only to, you know, kind of prop up anything, any business or any endeavor that the man is already doing. They're not really individuals in their own right. There's a ton of offensive stuff like that in there. Also, what I found really exhausting when I was reading this is that now I have no problem with cynicism. Personally, my own writing is pretty cynical and depressing, so I don't have a problem with cynicism in a literary context. But the problem is that this is not intelligent cynicism. It's just like really morbid. You know, it's almost as if the writer has not thought about what he's doing. So yeah, if it was intelligent, I would have enjoyed it, but it's not intelligent, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel, which again would not be a problem for me. I have no problem with fatalistic books, but again, it's simply not intelligent enough prose for me to kind of stay with this extremely disappointing story that doesn't seem to pick up at any point. It's like a really long monologue that goes on and on. I mean, I liked To be honest, I liked some of the descriptions. I mean, I like the implication that the modern world is kind of, it's creating misery. It's like a giant machine churning out misery, and that, the different advancements have made us more lonely and depressed than ever. So, kind of the implications for the human condition. I did enjoy that suggestion that seems to be there in the novel. But that was about it. And I tend to belong to that kind of school of thought. Uh, you know, and, many psychiatrists say this as well, that you need to feel the feeling till it no longer needs to be felt. You can't just numb it or shop it away or kind of subdue it with anything like food or drugs or alcohol or anything like that, because it's going to pop right back up. Till you acknowledge it, till you kind of really bring it to the forefront, understand that it is a part of you. It's always going to create havoc, which is something, by the way, that this character Florent Claude seems to be unaware of. He seems to be sorry, not unaware, incapable of. So the next one that I finished and had bought in that haul is Disgrace by J.M. Coetzee. J.M. Coetzee apparently won the Nobel Prize in 2003. This book won the 1999 Booker Prize, which for the life of me, I can't understand what their criteria is. And honestly, like I said earlier, I've read so many horrible Booker Prize winners that I'm really beginning to question what it is they look for in a book. Are they looking for, something that's political in nature or something that makes a political statement? I mean, I don't know. Or whatever. They need to update their criteria. I think it's a very disappointing criteria. Anyway, so Disgrace by J.M. Coetzee is about a middle-aged, kind of twice divorced professor of, I think, literature. I keep forgetting. Something like that. Communications, I think. And he's, of course, he's very lonely. He's very weird. Obviously, he's very frustrated. He teaches in university in Cape Town, South Africa. And he has an affair with a student, which of course goes poorly when the university administration finds out about it. He's thrown out. He goes to the countryside where his daughter Lucy from one of his marriages has a small land holding, and she's kind of this bohemian wild child. She's kind of living in the wilderness, foraging, growing vegetables and flowers, selling them in the farmer's market, just about as, very back to the basics, very kind of sustainable lifestyle, that sort of thing. And he goes to spend some time with her, and that's really where the bulk of the story is. It's a pretty short novel, so kind of evenly divided across all of those phases. And then, obviously, there's this underlying dynamic of, black and white people, obviously post-apartheid in South Africa. So next to Lucy's sort of land holding is this polygamous black farmer named Petrus, who has also a farm of his own. And although he doesn't say it in so many words, he is obviously after kind of buying off some of Lucy's land because he wants to expand his farm. So he's portrayed as this almost seedy, opportunistic character. And then there's this personal tragedy happens. These three black men, they break into Lucy's home one evening, and a personal tragedy ensues after that, the least of which is that they set her father on fire with some kerosene and they rob the house. And Petrus, as it turns out, actually knows one or potentially all of the black men that committed this crime, but he's not going to help Lucy get justice. And the other disappointing aspect is that Lucy herself does not want to get justice. She just goes on with her life as if nothing has happened, and she can do something, but she doesn't. She renders herself powerless when, obviously, so I'm actually back after a full hour because the electricity went, and I kind of need the studio light, because the other things can operate without that, but not the. So it's gonna take me a second to remember what I was talking to you last about. Yes, Lucy. So Lucy doesn't. She doesn't seem to want to get justice, and when you're introduced to her as a character, it strikes you that she's this really strong woman. She's living by herself. She's doing all of these things rather than, I don't know, being a trophy wife or something stupid like that. So it's kind of like very anticlimactic because um, you had this opinion of her, which is completely shattered when something horrible happens to her. Just one second. So, so it's like you're disappointed in her as a character, which I really did not want to be. So overall, what's wrong with the book? It's very dull and lackluster. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've read Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov, and I've read My Dark Vanessa quite a few months ago, and so I know. So I know what it's supposed to be like when you're writing about some kind of middle-aged, frustrated, dullard sort of man. I mean, I know books which can make that interesting, right? Or make that at least not interesting but readable at least. This completely fails in that regard. Is there a better way to say that? Is there a more eloquent way to say that? Of course, as I mentioned earlier, this book is useful for understanding the post-apartheid sort of society in South Africa, where there's this a great deal of resentment and hate, kind of almost brimming under the surface in South African society between blacks and whites. There's plenty of scenes that kind of show that, bring that to the surface. So yeah, that's why that was horrible. So luckily though, since my trip to the bookstore, I actually have ordered quite a few more books online, and I'm kind of going through them, and I will talk about them in later videos. But I finished. Let me see if I can find it. I finished the Big Book of Literature, which is the DK Big Book. I'm actually rather fond of DK Big Books. And they're actually there's a lot of pictures and everything, as you can see, but they're not actually meant for children. But they take really large, diverse topics and they kind of condense it for you. And mostly they're just a point of reference. So I found a lot of suggestions for writers and novels in this big book, the literature book, that perhaps I had not heard of or thought to purchase. And out of that came quite a few purchases, which I may or may not do a haul of. I don't know. I have the DK Big Book in quite a lot of other topics. Let me show you a few. So recently I also bought the Feminism Big Book, because this has all the historical context for feminism and a lot of the theories. And I think I think people nowadays, they kind of, women in particular and sometimes men, they claim to be a feminist, but they don't have any idea of any of the historical accounts. They have no idea about any of the theories. They don't know the different feminists at different points in time over the centuries have actually disagreed with each other. So it's a very much a lack of awareness, of which I was part of that ignorance. So this is a good starting point to kind of understand all of that, and then one can kind of, I really like the fact that it's black and purple, which is, two of my favorite colors. Well, and I also have the philosophy one, but I think they have one for sociology, economics, a bunch of other stuff. So they're very, very nice because they give you a starting point to read further from. And out of the literature book, I came to know of, what is it? This novel, The Tin Drum by Gunter Grass, which of course I will make a separate video on. Actually, I haven't started reading it yet, so there might be like a reading vlog or something. But this author won the Nobel Prize for Literature, and I'm just going to read off the back here, if I can find my glasses. So as it turns out, I have lost my glasses, so I'm just gonna read it anyways. If I miss a word or two, this is why. The novel is as monstrous as its hero, pullulating with a kind of anti-life for which one of the most horribly memorable images of the book, a horse's head seething with live eels, serves as a suitable emblem. Gunter Grass may have written the nearest thing to a literary masterpiece his generation is capable of producing. The publication of The Tin Drum in 1959 launched Gunter Grass as an author of international repute. Bitter and impassioned, it delivers a scathing dissection of the years from 1925 to 1955 through the eyes of Oscar Matzerath, the dwarf whose manic beating of the toy of his retarded childhood fantastically counterpoints the accumulating horrors of Germany and Poland under the Nazis. And fun fact, Gunter Grass was himself part of, I think, the combat wing of Hitler's SS, the Schutzstaffel, is it called? I don't know any German, so you'll have to forgive me. But he was part of a combat kind of branch called the Waffen Schutzstaffel. But apparently he just joined it when he was really young, 16 or 17, towards the end of the war. So it's not like he did anything really, but it's a fact that he kind of hid. And he only revealed it in 2006, a few years before his death. And apparently it was something that really haunted him, because his entire career had kind of been based around, being critical of the Nazi government and of Germany's past relating to that. And it made many people think that many of his literary works had been a lie. But I think, again, I've not read anything by him yet, so I will get back to you on that. But I think that makes his writing all the more powerful. But anyway, we will leave the judgments for when I've actually read and done all the proper research. Then I also ordered these two. This is The Bloody Chamber by an author called Angela Carter, who I've never read from before, but apparently these are really good. They're kind of horror, folktale sort of thing, which really piques my fancy, I think, because I really like gothic sort of stuff. So this is a collection of short stories, which again was recommended to me by the Big Literature book. And this is a novel by, this is Ruby. This is a novel by Cynthia Bond. It's relatively recent. I think it was chosen by the Oprah Book Club. And I've never read anything by this author, but the blurb, as it were, really interested me. It's about a woman. It's about a strong woman, which we all love, who's kind of dealing with the town's dark past. There's a man who really loves her, and he would do anything for her. And there's that sort of stuff happening. Yeah, I mean, very interested. I mean, I don't read enough of... Oh my god. So funnily enough, I actually dropped this book right onto the camera stand, and the camera went whoop. Thankfully, it didn't fall off or anything. I don't know what is happening today. So yeah, that's it for today, folks. I'll see you soon. And yeah, please leave your comments down in the comment section. I love to interact with you guys. If you have anything to add to anything that I said, or a different point of view, I'd love to hear that. And yeah, before something else happens, like something spontaneously combusts, I'm going to shut this camera down now. So yeah, okay, I'll see you. Bye.